Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the purpose and scope of safety cases, specifically focusing on the December 2022 issue of the Nuclear Safety Technical Assessment Guide, NS TAST GD051. It's a fascinating document that talks about safety cases in the nuclear industry. Ready to get into it?
Absolutely. I've been curious about how safety cases are structured, especially in such a high-stakes field like nuclear safety. So what's the main purpose of this guide?
Great question. The guide serves to provide ONR inspectors, that's the Office for Nuclear Regulation, with comprehensive guidance on how to exercise their regulatory judgment on safety cases related to nuclear and radiological hazards. Essentially, it outlines what a safety case should contain, how it's structured, and the overall qualities it should exhibit.
So it's like a blueprint for safety cases. How detailed does it get?
Exactly. It's quite detailed. It covers everything from the introduction and purpose to the relationship with license conditions, relevant legislation, safety assessment principles, or SAPs, and even international standards from bodies like WENRA and the IAEA.
Right, now you mentioned SAPs and WENRA reference levels. How do they tie into the safety cases?
The SAPs provide a framework for regulatory decision-making in the nuclear permissioning process. They set out the principles inspectors should use when assessing safety cases. WENRA, Western European Nuclear Regulators Association, offers reference levels that represent a consensus on nuclear safety requirements across member states. Safety cases need to align with these standards to ensure they're meeting relevant good practices.
Okay, that makes sense, but what's actually in a safety case? Like, what kind of information does it include?
A safety case is comprehensive. It includes a logical and hierarchical set of documents that describe risks in terms of hazards presented by the facility, potential faults, accident scenarios, and the measures in place to prevent or mitigate these risks. It connects past experiences, current operations, and future safety expectations.
So it's not just about the physical aspects, but also about procedures and management systems.
Precisely. It encompasses everything from the design and engineering of the plant to operational procedures, safety management, emergency planning, and even decommissioning strategies.
Wow, it sounds extensive. How do they ensure that the safety case remains effective over time, especially as the facility ages or operations change?
Great point. Safety cases are considered living documents. They're subject to periodic reviews and updates to account for changes in the facility, new information, operational experience, and advancements in technology or safety practices. This ensures they remain relevant and continue to provide a valid basis for safe operation.
Right, and who is responsible for maintaining and updating these safety cases?
Ownership lies with the duty holder, which is the organisation responsible for the facility. Within that organisation, those with direct responsibility for safety, like operational line management, should own the safety case. They need to understand it thoroughly and ensure it's implemented and maintained effectively.
Got it. Now, earlier you mentioned defence in depth. Can you elaborate on that?
Certainly. Defence in depth is a fundamental safety principle that involves multiple layers of defence to prevent accidents or mitigate their consequences. It's generally applied in 5 levels. 1. Prevention of abnormal operation and failures by design. 2. Control of abnormal operation and detection of failures. 3. Control of accidents within the design basis to prevent escalation. 4. Control of severe plant conditions beyond the design basis, including accident management. 5. Mitigation of radiological consequences of significant releases of radioactive materials. Each level is independent as far as practicable, so that if one fails, the next will compensate.
That's a robust approach. It reminds me of how aviation safety works, with multiple redundant systems. But in terms of nuclear safety cases, how do they demonstrate that risks are reduced to what's called ALARP?
ALARP stands for as low as reasonably practicable. In the safety case, duty holders must demonstrate they've reduced risks to ALARP by identifying all potential hazards, considering all possible prevention and mitigation options, and justifying the choices they've made. This involves a balance between the level of risk and the sacrifice, whether in cost, time, or trouble, needed to further reduce it.
So it's not necessarily about eliminating all risks, but making sure that any further reduction would be grossly disproportionate to the benefit gained.
Exactly. It's about proportionality. For example, if implementing a safety measure would cost an exorbitant amount but yield minimal risk reduction, it might not be considered reasonably practicable.
Understood. Now, what about the common pitfalls in safety cases? Are there typical shortcomings that inspectors look out for?
Yes, there are several. One major issue is when safety cases become overly bureaucratic, too long and detailed to the point where they become inaccessible to the very people who need to use them. Another is lack of clarity, or the use of obscure terminology that can confuse users.
That seems counterproductive. If the safety case isn't user-friendly, how can those responsible for safety effectively implement it?
Exactly right. A safety case must be understandable and usable. It's not just a compliance document but a practical tool to manage safety. Other pitfalls include being overly optimistic and underplaying uncertainties or potential issues, which can lead to a skewed perception of safety.
So transparency and honesty are crucial in these documents.
Absolutely. A balanced approach that openly addresses weaknesses or uncertainties is essential. It's about fostering a safety culture where continuous improvement and learning are integral.
Speaking of learning, the document mentions the Nimrod review. What's the significance of that in the context of safety cases?
The Nimrod review was an independent investigation into the loss of an RAF Nimrod aircraft in 2006, which tragically resulted in 14 fatalities. The review highlighted significant shortcomings in the safety case for the aircraft, many of which are applicable across industries, including nuclear.
What were some of those shortcomings?
They included issues like safety cases being too bureaucratic, lacking clarity, not involving operators in their development, and becoming self-fulfilling prophecies that simply justify existing conditions rather than critically assessing safety.
That's a stark reminder of the real-world consequences when safety cases aren't properly handled.
Indeed. It underscores the importance of ensuring safety cases are not just tick-box exercises, but are actively used and kept up to date.
So in practical terms, how can organisations ensure their safety cases avoid these pitfalls?
Organisations should involve all relevant stakeholders, including operators and maintainers, in developing and reviewing safety cases. They should focus on clarity, ensuring the documents are user-friendly. Regular training and a strong safety culture that encourages questioning and continuous improvement are also vital.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, circling back to the structure of safety cases, the document mentions the claims, arguments, evidence, CAE approach. Can you explain that?
Certainly. The CAE approach is a structured method for building safety cases. Claims are propositions or statements about the safety of the facility. Arguments are the logical reasoning that link the claims to the evidence. Evidence is the data or information that supports the claims. This approach helps ensure that every claim about safety is backed by solid evidence and that the reasoning is transparent and logical.
So it's about making the safety case more rigorous and easier to follow.
Exactly. It helps identify any gaps or weaknesses in the safety case and ensures that all safety claims are substantiated.
Are there any challenges associated with using the CAE approach?
One challenge is that if not properly implemented, it can become overly complex, giving a false sense of security. It's important that the CAE structure enhances understanding rather than obscuring it. Also, it requires a cultural shift towards critical thinking and effective communication among all parties involved.
Got it. So in summary, what's the key takeaway from this guide for professionals involved in nuclear safety?
The key takeaway is that safety cases are fundamental tools for ensuring nuclear safety. They must be comprehensive, logical, and user-friendly, continuously updated, and involve all relevant stakeholders. By adhering to the guidance and learning from past experiences like the Nimrod Review, organisations can significantly enhance their safety management practices.
That's invaluable information. I feel like I've gained a much deeper understanding of the importance and intricacy of safety cases in the nuclear industry.
I'm glad to hear that. It's a complex but crucial topic. Ensuring safety is paramount, and robust safety cases are at the heart of that effort.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for breaking that down. I think our listeners will appreciate the deep dive into this essential aspect of nuclear safety.
My pleasure, and thank you all for tuning in. Remember, safety is a collective responsibility, and staying informed is a big part of that. See you in the next one.
See you next time.